So I've managed to make it happen, the visualization stuff, but it felt so embarrassing because I realized that I did a bunch of stuff that was completely unnecessary. And I think the reason why I was doing that way is because I wanted to incorporate classes into the project, and I wanted to push myself outside of my comfort zone. So I think I ended up subconsciously making things more harder than they needed to be. But then I just erased most of the stuff that I did before, and then I realized why not use the Network X class directly instead of creating the other class that I was creating there. And then I managed to make it happen, just doing these things way simpler. But then I still realize now that I'm not capturing the connections the way that I want to capture it. And the problem here is that some of this some of the subfolders have files with the same name, but they are supposed to have different meanings. But on the graph, it shows the connection with the two folders, with the same file with two different folders. When what I actually want is for to have two different connections, one for each file. Because later on, when I try, which I think is what I'm gonna do today, when I try to make a feature that allows me to click here and go directly to the documentation, I want to be able to click on the specific ones and get the specific documentation for that one and not have any conflicts. So the ones that I was analyzing was this return statement here. Not statement, the return HTML, which is connected to this generator and this statements folder, but they have a different meaning for each folder. But here in the graph shows only one node and two connections, which is obviously not what I want. But obviously this is much better than what I was getting last time. So the orange are the folders, the other ones are the files, and there's two different types of edges as well. One for the folders, one for the files. Different colors you can see here. It's kind of hard to see the other one, but so what I'm thinking about doing right now is trying to test to see, or to test a bunch of different ways to connect them, to see if I can separate the folders and make it the way that it's supposed to be on the folder structure, tree structure. And then I was thinking about that I might not do the scrapey. Maybe I'll do it later, but I was thinking that if I do through scrapey, I was trying to think about a way to, because later on, if I do add the feature to click on each one of the nodes and go directly through the documentation, if I do it through scrapey, I couldn't think about a way to put the information to get to the exact page of the documentation on the nodes. But if I do it through the files, then I think it's much easier because all I have to do is find the file on the system, on the project, and then open that file, which is going to be an HTML file. So if I click on the folder, then obviously it doesn't open anything because it's a folder, but it's going to highlight the files of that folder. And then if I click on a node that has a file, then it opens up the HTML page for the file with the documentation. And through scrapey, I'm not sure how I'm gonna do that, because then might have to do it with Playwright for each one, and then run a script on Playwright so it localizes the page. It goes to the browser and localizes the page, but it sounds not very efficient. So it might be a lot harder, and I'm not sure if it's worth the time. And I also downloaded all the documentation for all the languages. So I think I'm gonna run this now for all of them. Which is 500. It's gonna open up a bunch of them. Let me see if there's a way so it doesn't open up. the file after. I think I'm gonna comment this out for now, just so it doesn't open a bunch of tabs after it finishes all these graphs for all these languages. And then put in the graphs here. So hopefully this works. And yeah, the other thing that I was thinking about that I want to do now is try to figure out a way. I want to essentially extract, to be able to put here outside on the options. I made it this way, so before I didn't have this stuff here. I was doing everything manually here. But this way is much better because if I want to change the colors, obviously I can just change it here and it's gonna change here on all the spots that are necessary to change. So I was trying to think about a way to select multiple, give a list with all the languages that I want, and then try to make the different color of edges and nodes based on that list. So I can build a graph that has more. That's also another problem with this. The way that I did this is that it builds the graph, one graph for each iteration each time. And it doesn't, if I want to do all of them in the same graph, then I have to modify this structure here. Because I'm cleaning the nodes and I'm showing the graph each time. Different one. So ideally, I should also put something that allows me to pass a flag variable, and if the flag variable is true, then I create a graph with all the lists that I passed here as this byling stuff. That way, if I want to create a graph that has multiple languages, I just pass in the list and it creates. And then also within that, I want to do something that I choose the colors of the nodes and edges based on the languages that I'm trying to analyze. And then maybe also try to create something that allows me to build like the bigger tree from that. But I'm not sure if that's going to be possible. So essentially, because JavaScript and Python comes from C++, that was the idea in the beginning, is to try to find a way to visualize where each thing from each language is coming from. But I'm not sure if that's going to be possible because of this problem with the name of the files. Because the name of the files don't necessarily represent exactly what each thing is. And there are multiple files that have the same name, but actually the documentation, they are very different things, which I think is the biggest problem with this. And then if I try to do it with Scrapey, then I have the other problem, which is it's going to be, even though it might be easier to get the information and put it on a CSV to build a graph, it might be a lot harder to make the functionality later. So I'm thinking that it's probably better to first try to finish the graph to make the connections right, the way that I intended it to be. Then to try to add these features where I can choose how many languages I'm gonna pass and to modify the edges and colors of the nodes based on the connections that I want to capture without having to modify what's going on inside each time. I tried to abstract that away from this to put it in another function, but then I was having some problems doing that. So far I thought that it might be better to do like this. And apparently something went wrong here. It did create for a bunch of them, but memory error. Hmm. And that's another problem. But this is a problem with graphs that I think is much more difficult than. I always had this problem even with Matplotlib or Graphis on other things that I was doing, which is I don't know how to make the, because it seems like it accumulates the whatever operation is doing when you're building graphs, it accumulates from one to the next unless you completely stop the script and run it again. And even if you put a schedule or something like that, it doesn't work. It didn't work for the other projects that I was doing. So maybe because it's a bunch of different languages at the same time that I'm trying to do, it doesn't work here. Yeah, so an easy way, obviously, is to pass whatever ones I want here, which is this thing that I set up here. And this pass is only gonna analyze those languages, the languages that I pass that exist on the folder. But I guess, let me see. Yeah, React is here. Let's check out React. Just see if it's working. Yeah, React is really small, but apparently it's working. Yeah, but like I said, I'm having second thoughts about finishing this completely because I guess from a learning standpoint was good, but as something that I'm gonna use practically, I'm not sure if it's gonna be useful. Maybe if I'm capable of adding the functionality to the nodes that I want, then it becomes much better. But with this issue of the naming of the files, it's the biggest problem for me. So I don't think I'm gonna add past languages now. Maybe I'll pick up some just so I leave it there and don't end up forgetting next time I'm gonna run this. Let me see. C is definitely gonna be in here. I'm gonna pick up some that I'm probably gonna study. CVP, I think I already have it. CSS. It's interesting. I don't think I'm gonna do HTML because it's too easy. CSS is easy as well, but I feel like there's some stuff about CSS that I don't know yet, and I want to know. Uh, Maybe Java. Oh, there's Ginger here as well. So Ginger might be. Ginger is definitely gonna be interesting to do it. 3.0. What is it giving me? Oh, because of the size of the line. So Ginger. Yeah, it should be written exactly like it is in the folder. JavaScript, I think I already have it there. These are the ones that I'm gonna test after I put the functions that I want to change here to test stuff out. And before I also tried to make another. Yeah, essentially these last lines here are not. They don't have any purpose because now I'm appending them to here, but I'm never using them because I'm not using this class here to create the graphs. I'm just using the main network X class. And the problem I was having is that there are specific things that network X does behind the scenes once it creates the nodes and the edges that if I put it in this class so I can separate the languages and do another network X later, then it doesn't work because I have to apply all the other functionalities. I think it's the options that become the problem once you're passing in the attributes for each one. Oh, this is the thing that I'm going to try to change now. Which in here is this partial of the nodes here. So this function adds the node, and then these ones add the edge for each one. And then I am passing all these options here, which is the color to differentiate the value, which is how big they're gonna be. The first one I put red, so I know which one is the root node every time. Then this makes it highlight when you select it. The title is the title. Level is for one of the physical models of the representation, the hierarchical representation. But I didn't understand really well how it works. I just put it there just to see, but I don't think I managed to make it work. And then, yeah. So let me go to this. Well, it's better to go to the class because, yeah, this is the file from network X. Yeah, so this is the add node function from network X. And here you can see that it creates the node object using another file. And then it uses this n.options here. It appends to the nodes. And then I guess that uses this later on to build the graph. So if you only have the list with all the nodes, it doesn't work. Because then they're all gonna be missing the options that are passed here once you create the nodes. So you have to create them directly to make it work. Or if maybe I could implement like this, but then I would have to append the options themselves, not the node object, to my class there, and use that as. But then it's a lot more complicated. I think I could obviously do that, but I think it's not the best approach probably. Because then I would have to put everything on different lists, and then I would have to pass the options or to make find somehow to pass in the format that is required here, and put them on a tuple or a list or something like that, and then pass into the add nodes. Oh yeah, I was selecting the languages. So Jinja. I've also seen something that I didn't know about. I was doing a test for a website, and they talked about web workers for JavaScript, which I never heard of, and apparently is important to know. So, but I don't think that uh, the graph has anything about it, unfortunately. Maybe NumPy is also interesting to put here. npm, put npm NumPy 1.22 pandas 0.25. It's really hot here where I live. Open this one. I think one is probably the latest. What else? PHP, I've heard it is important, but I don't think I'm gonna learn it because there are lots of other things to learn first. Puppeteer, I think, is a version is something like Playwright. I don't know really well what's the difference between React and React Native. So I think it might be interesting to put it here. Redux, I think I have it there, but I'm gonna put it, I think that's gonna be it here. And this is probably enough. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Which was the amount I was doing before. Oh, Rust as well. And TensorFlow. It's probably good as well. SQLite. Is SQLite the same as SQL? I think it is. I'm not sure. And since there is not a lot left, I'm gonna put there. SQLite. And TensorFlow. TensorFlow. Oh, there's TensorFlow for Python and TensorFlow CPP, I guess. But I think I'm gonna do just the normal one. Maybe this TypeScript as well. I leave like this for now. Let's see. It's gonna give me a memory issue. I'll turn on the lights soon. Just wait until it gets a little bit darker. Also, nice, apparently it works. I think I will leave the thing that I modified there on the class to not show the thing after it saves the graph because it's much better. Oh, and also did manually one graph of the 8 languages that I was doing before, just to see how it would look like. I had a different style as well at the time. So I think the first things I'm gonna study with this after I'm able to apply the Ginger stuff, the Ginger features that I want, are gonna be React, Redux, and JavaScript. Until I'm very good at building websites, probably CSS and HTML as well. Maybe CSS, yeah. CSS and Django. So first JavaScript, then React, then Redux, then JavaScript and CSS probably together, then React, Redux, then Django, and maybe Flask then. And then, yeah, that's probably what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do this stuff, and I'm gonna leave Scrapey for later. I think, because I need to build more websites. I think once I have around 5 websites, they don't need to be really complicated, but just fully functioning. then I can think about studying scraping more, because there's also a bunch of ideas that I have using scraping to make data analysis and building machine learning models. Also, cargo competitions might be on the table as well, though. And in VM, I was trying to do stuff with the scrapey, trying to understand these row links here, but I wasn't being able to make it work. I don't know exactly why. The tough thing about scrapey is that there's not a lot of good information out there, or besides the YouTube channel from the guy that I showed before, which he has very good videos, but they don't go very in depth with the scrapey. It's just more for superficial stuff, and the documentation is not really clear on how to. Maybe it is clear, but I couldn't understand it really well. So I think I'm gonna have to spend a lot more time to be able to understand it well. Yeah, so this one I did with the yellow color for the files and the green color for the folders. And then the red dot here is the first node of each language. So let me show how I did the graphs here. I realized that I could separate by the directory instead of doing what I was doing before. And then I could use the connection of the directory on the oswalk function to make the connections. So if the key is bigger or equal to 1, because the 0 key is always going to be the dot, which doesn't have any meaning. It's just when you split like this. Then I make, if the key is equal to the last one, which means that it's going to be the last node, the last directory. Then I check if it's a file, and then I loop through the files object, which is this filtered list here for our .html files. So if it is a file, I'm going to add a node to the network X network with these properties. If it's the first time that I'm running this, then I'm going to add with the color red, and then I'm going to make it +1. And if it's not the first time, then I add the colors for the last, for the files, which is going to be actually for the nodes that have the last directory. But this ends up being overwritten with the color of the nodes, so it doesn't really matter that much, but I still put a different color here because it might change sometimes if you have more levels. So I thought that it made sense to separate the colors. And then I made another loop here for the subdirectories. So this is stuff that I think is going wrong here. Is that the whole problem that I was speaking about in the beginning of the way that oswalk loops through folders and files, which makes it extremely difficult to create unique connections and get the tree-like structure, the network X graph, which you have to think about now how to make this happen. But it's pretty much the same way that I did the files there, but for the subfolders. And then if it's not, -1 here. Yeah, so if files first. Oh, maybe there's another thing that I'm doing wrong here. Because this shouldn't be in this indentation of the files. Should be separate. So I think I'm gonna fix that right now. This should be one earlier here. So this might be a problem that I was having before. that I didn't realize. Because if a subfolder doesn't have any files, it's gonna skip through this. Hmm. Yeah, but anyway, then I have the folders, then with the else statement. Oh no, it's putting in the else, that's why. Oh yeah, that's why I did like this. Never mind. So when it checks for files, it's gonna run the loop for subfolders and files in the last directory. And when it doesn't have files, it's only gonna loop through the subfolder. But that's another thing that I was thinking about there, is to sum them up beforehand, so I don't have to do this complicated stuff. I can just do one loop for both. But then I could differentiate by the extension. So if the element has .html at the end is a file, so I can add a different node. I think that's gonna look a lot cleaner. And the way that OS walk works, you always get the subfolders and files of the current parent directory. So they are gonna be on the same level each time. So it means that I can put them together and do it like this, because the connections are gonna be the same essentially. The edges, which is gonna be from the subdirectory to the parent directory. So I think that's one improvement I can make here. Yeah, so it goes through here, then once the loop of the OS walk is on this directory here, it's gonna return these two subdirectories and these files, only the HTML ones because I'm filtering there, but it's gonna return them into the list, two separate lists, but I can put them together because they're all on the same level. And then if it isn't, if the element isn't the last one, then I'm making the connection with the keys, which means that each level is going to be connected to the other one. So I think, for example, here, the parent directory would show Angular, link docs, no, actually Angular at first, then guide, then the files. So the key is probably going to be Angular, and then the key plus one would be guide. And this would create the connection between them. And the other loop would create the connections of the files with guide. So it'd be like a chain in my mind. But I also think there might be something wrong with this because I don't get any brown or orange nodes in the graph. And I think the reason why this is happening is because it's overriding the subfolders with the other color. So, yeah. So I'm not sure if this is necessary or not, because I was thinking about what if a folder has a lot more subdirectories and other levels, then this it might show up in the graph in the first nodes at least. But I think probably is likely that it can be the case that it will override these colors with the other ones for folders and files, so it doesn't really matter if I do this. And this might be one problem that I'm having here, the way that I did this, because the connections are not unique. So that's another thing that I have to think about now, how to change this so I make sure I'm capturing each connection of the folders instead. I think I'm gonna turn on the lights. I'll be right back. So I think what I need to understand again is the connection between the subfolder files and the parent directory. What exactly I'm getting on each level for the parent directory. I think I should do this here. I should pass by link equals c actually cpp because it's the one that I was doing before. Then here I was printing what I get and each time. So I print there's yeah, so it gives me the dot every time. Then this is the dirs, and it's below here is what I'm getting. And on keys is the last one. And then here is the key and the name for each one. Yeah, so this one I have yeah, so it's showing up link docs. So I'm curious where is printing this from. I think this one is from here, but then it doesn't make sense. Should be from here because it should have true. So it's printing the key name first, I guess. Was because the keys is 0 in the first iteration. So it goes through this first, prints this, then it prints this one because the keys is not the keys is 1. Then yeah. Yeah, so the last one is always the sub folder. Because in ranges here, atomic ranges. I have to think how I should think so I can understand why is making the same connection for different files. They have the same name, but there exist some different folders. So I guess when I'm making the connection, that's the thing. This is an interesting idea. There might be a way to solve this easily. If I, instead of doing like this, where I put the same name each time, I can maybe make the name a combination of the folder and the file so that the graph separates, because then each file would contain the parent folder in its name. This might be interesting. Yeah, I think that this might work. Because it might be the case that when, let's say that this file exists somewhere else, the first time the network X creates the node between all any none off and ranges. But then the next time that it encounters this file into another folder, is not going to create a node because it already exists. It's just going to create a different edge, but the files are different. They have the same name, but they are different. So in the graph, it shows up with two connections to different folders, but in reality, it should be a different node. So it might be as simple as changing the name. Now that I realize. I'm wondering if I should copy this one into that, so I can also test the thing that I was talking about with adding them both together. I think I'm gonna do on the other folder and see if it works. So here I was using another network X and erase this and some useful comments there. So if I figure this out, then all I will have to do is figure out how to create different colors for different languages if I want to. And to make it more dynamic, to add the nodes of one language into nodes of other languages. So here, I'm gonna do the same. I think I'll leave these files for now. I want to do CPP. Maybe I'll add CPP here. So what it's gonna do? So here I should make all sub equals subdir plus files. This is gonna create a list that contains all subfolders and files. Then I can just capture. Oh, ideally, I think I can grab from the other graph and I can erase this because I don't want to lose information from the nodes and have to think about it again. So this one is from the outside ones. I think this one I can erase here, and this one I can erase. If all sub for files in all sub. Maybe it's better to put items so I don't get confused. If item does find .html, it's different -1. So I'm checking if HTML exists in the name. Maybe I should put equal first to test for the folders. So if this is equal to -1, it means that the item doesn't contain HTML extension. Then I can create I'm gonna put the comments, create nodes and edges for folders. Then here I'm not sure if it's best to put else or a leaf. I think I can use else. I don't see why. Why not? Create nodes and edges for files. Yeah, this is much cleaner than before. So I'm summing them up and then I'm looking through the list there. If it's files, I do this, and if it's not, if it's folders, I do this, and if it's files, I'll go here. That's, yeah, I think this is correct. So now let me copy the node information, which is also has this, yeah, I declared here outside the loop. So files is this one. Yeah, but now is the thing, right? Because I don't have the name. Oh, items actually is the name. So create unique name for a file. Create unique name for folders. Folder name. It's gonna be items plus there's -1. Maybe I should put there's -1 first. I think the less, this is what I'm not really sure about, but that's how I'm imagining in my mind right now. I think the less element that shows up in this name here, in this dirs, which is this dirs -1, is gonna be one level above the subfolders and files. So when it's showing up ranges here, it's gonna be showing up all, any and none of. So maybe I should test this first. I think I'm gonna make the way that I was talking about before. Do like this. And here, put file name. Yeah, it's gonna be the same because it's a different name each time. And here then be file name, file name, file name. And this node I don't think I need to change because this is the node of the folder. And what it needs to change is the edge. That should be a unique edge each time, not a unique node. I guess. I'm not sure as well. Because what if... Yeah, this is what I have to think as well. Because in one iteration, this there's -1 is gonna be the same as the folder of the subfolder of the previous iterations. So in one iteration, there's -1 is gonna be algorithm, but in the next one, it's gonna be ranges. So if I'm creating with a different name here, I'm gonna have an edge for algorithm. Yeah, maybe I'm gonna be doubling the nodes then. If I do it like this. I think I'm gonna do it first, see what happens, and then think about it. So I need the edge here that I didn't put. I think this is correct. So I have the nodes for the file, the nodes for the there's -1, then the edge from file to there's -1. Now let me do the folders. Here, folders name. Yeah, so maybe this works. And I think here I'm gonna print dirs, then I'm gonna print sub files, sub dirs, and files. Actually, it's much better if I print also, because I want to see if the way that I imagine is correct. Where ranges is gonna be the last one. Maybe I should print -1 here. So I want to see the last one. And what are the subfolders and files for this one? The way that I'm envisioning is that subfolders and files will be connected to the last one. And the last one is going to be connected to the second one, and so forth until it reaches the root for each iteration. So I think I did everything here. Just make sure. So I think this loop is correct. Oh, I didn't do the outside part. Oh no, it's here. Yeah. So if it's not the last one, then it makes this key and key +1. Yeah, I think that's the thing. I'm only capturing the connection one level above. Maybe not because it's going through them. When the loop is going through the whole dirs directory. So yeah, I'm actually capturing all of them. The first one is gonna be 0 and 1, then 1 and 2, and so forth. So I think it does capture it. Let me think. Actually, this node only activates for the last subdirectory into the. So it's only gonna trigger on ranges. Before that, the other one is gonna trigger. So that's another thing that I might be missing here. Yeah, because I'm not getting the files and the subfolders. Huh. Oh, but maybe it's fine because I'm getting the directories because of the way that OSWalk works. I'm hitting this on the previous iterations of the OSWalk. So even though I'm not getting ranges and these files here, in one of the loops, I'm getting them before. So maybe this stuff is unnecessary actually. I'm gonna leave it here and see. I'll think about it later. I was anxious about running because I might encounter a lot of problems and I have to think about what's gonna happen, how to fix it. So let me open the C folder. Yeah, so when it's on this, it gives these ones. Yeah, so it's just like I was imagining. Then when it's on algorithm, when algorithm is the last one, the sub ones are the folders, the files here. And atomic. Yeah, so it's exactly the way that I'm imagining it to be. Yeah, but then I think I'm not capturing the connection between atomic and the C directory, which was the thing that I was thinking about previously. But maybe I am through the levels of the folders, through this outer loop here. Yeah, because even though it doesn't show here, because I'm only printing the last one, it's probably in there with tiers -2, which means that it's gonna run through this and make the connection. So let me open some one of them. Oh, I will open, I think, the ginger. Actually, that way I can study already as I try to fix this. Maybe it's too small. Should be worth it. So another thing I want to see is how to change the direction of the arrows. Maybe if only all I need to do is change the which comes first. I think I'm gonna do that. So here, hopefully it doesn't screw up the graph. We're just gonna change all the edges. Let me do it again from the top. Just make sure I'm not skipping any of them. So it starts here, node, 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 edge. Raise this. It's here. No, 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 the edge. Raise this. What's here? Edge. Raise. So this thing I also think is unnecessary. So I should probably erase this part here. Just making things slower. I'm gonna test it like this first. So let me take a picture of how it is now. Just so I see if it's actually doing what I want it to do. So it seems like Jinja is not really that big of a library. From the description and some of the script documentation, I think Jinja is like the small subsection of Django. I think I should also change the color of these nodes here, which is from folders, subfolders. So I think let me, I think I saved the site that has color palettes that are good. Let me see if I find it. Yeah, here. So maybe if I catch this one, if I can't see properly, then I'm gonna try a different one. So these are the edges. Oh, actually, it's better to change here. This is the color for the nodes. This is the color for the edges. So should be this one. So let me run again. I think I'm gonna decrease the intensity of this light. This is too bright. Even if the camera doesn't pick up much. Oh, I forgot as well. I think I'm gonna print the whole deers here now. Next time. Yeah, so now it's working the way that I want it to work. Huh. So it does have a difference here, which is good to see. So it means that it is touching the other else statement there because the arrows are different. Otherwise, they would all be the same color that I changed here, but some of them clearly have the different color. Maybe this is working now as I intended to work. And I think I'm gonna change the other colors then. Just something that is more that I can see better. Oh, I can change here. So maybe I think something like this should be good. I think I'll use this one. It's the outer edge color. The way that I copy it on the side here. There we go. So now let me see the beginning. Yeah, so -1 is gonna be this. Then it shows these subfolders. When it hits this one, then atomic. It is gonna make the connection on the -2 with this. Because once, yeah, it's gonna connect length docs to the dot. And then it's gonna connect length docs to atomic. And then it's gonna connect atomic to these ones. So I think it's working. Yeah, nice, much better. And the tough thing about this is the colors, choosing the best colors because yeah, these are too similar now. As the nodes increase and the amount of edges increase, it becomes difficult to find different tones of colors that are very explicit and easy to visualize in the graph, the differences. So maybe if I get even more red than this, I can only change through here. I think I tried black and yes, pretty bad to visualize. Maybe this color. The problem with the white color is then it is gonna block the text from the no descriptions. So maybe just green. Let me see. Yeah, green should be different than different enough from the other ones. So I'm gonna test this one. I'm gonna go with this. After look at the Jinja graph, I'm gonna look at the JavaScript one because it's the one that I know the file that was wrong there. But I think it's working the way that I intended to work in the beginning. I'm also gonna test later to see if I take this off, it's gonna change anything. And if it is working the way that I intended to work, then I can start thinking about how to make it so I can change the color of nodes dynamically depending on the graph, which I think is gonna be slightly tougher because I'm gonna have to change this update. I think I can erase these update nodes as well, but then I'm gonna have to change the way that I'm saving these graphs in each iteration. So instead of saving them somehow, maybe I can create different instances of the class, different names here. I'll have to think about it. And this update nodes is the function of this class here, which I don't think I'm using. I'm not even using this length name here. So I think that even the whole class is probably unnecessary, apart from these two last functions. They loop through the folder and create the connections. Yeah, so now I think it's better to visualize. Did it work? Yeah, but now it's just similar with the other one. Or maybe not. Let's try blue, I think. Yeah, blue might be. I think I'm supposed to be getting three different colors for each one, as I'm tripping in the previous graphs. Yeah, here I can clearly see. Or maybe it was just two different colors when I was stripping. It looks like they're different though. Yeah, so maybe it's not hitting the last part. But it has to be. Because these are all folders. Actually, they have slightly different colors as well. Oh yeah, they have the orange color, so it means that it is hitting there. And I think the structure is correct. It's just a matter of getting the colors, making the colors better. Maybe I leave it like this. Actually, I kind of liked the one that I did before. Where is it? Here. I think I'm gonna pass this one to this one. And then I'm gonna change this one to this one. But it might be bad to visualize there. Might be very different in different monitors as well because I'm using the warm lights on this one. So it is not as bright. Yeah, so I wasn't tripping. there are three different colors. But I think this one is just because it's accessing the file. That was, and in reality only has two different colors for folders. But it's giving me slightly different colors, so I know it's hitting the outside loop there, the else statement, the outside, as it is supposed to do. So I think it's working. Yeah, so I like this color. This is the green. So maybe get something. And this is the other one. The thing is that there aren't many colors that I can use. Yeah, so what I want to change is the blue one, which is this one. Put yellow here. Then I'm gonna open up this one. Okay, so this is much better. It's easy to see now the difference between them. I think I like this one. It's different than the files one and different than the folders. So I think I can, yeah, I'm gonna open the JavaScript file, JavaScript graph. I'm gonna close this. So now I have to think about how I'm gonna separate the graphs. Preferably without complicating things too much. And then I can start thinking about how to modify the templates that I'm building with the network X. My idea is to create something below this physics here, options, that I can customize to put stuff that I want to check. So the first thing that I'll have to do is figure out how to make the... I remember last time I built the graph for the script visualization. I made a custom function and I was trying to make it show up here, but it wasn't showing up after I changed the source code. So, and I couldn't find the connection between the network X and the Jinja besides the template render function. So I know it has to be through that function, but I'm not exactly sure how to change it so I can display whatever I want here along with the physics option. And then I would create a button here in one of these that I can click and change the dynamics of the node. So that each time I click on one, instead of highlighting or doing whatever, it would open up the documentation. And then maybe I can also set up keys on the keyboard to navigate through them. But if that's, yeah, maybe even before that I should, yeah, I probably should even before that focus on trying to display the connections between different languages and making a graph that contains multiple languages together. So this is interesting because this is displaying the arrows incorrectly, I think. Yeah, should be going out the other way around. So maybe I have to change it again. Because this is the root node, so it has to go out of the root node into the other nodes. Not the other way around. And the edges are also not the same. So what's up with that? Maybe it didn't change here because I opened the same time that I was running. So let me run again. And to get the exact visual representation of the tree is much more complicated with Network X. You have to implement recursive functions. I was researching uh, stuff and I found a Stack Overflow thread that talks about this. So I don't think I'm going to spend time doing that because I don't think it's that worth it. With this representation alone, I think it's already good enough. Yeah, it's still displaying like this, which is weird. Can't be the way that I wrote here, maybe. Oh, I didn't put it here. So dumb. That's the problem. So, JavaScript. That's why. Was finding it's like, what's going on here? Finding it strange. And obviously, I didn't put here, so let me see if I got the name correctly. Oh, I need to put Python as well. Maybe I should put run one iteration with all of them again, even if I get a memory thing, just to correct all of the ones that I have saved already. I think I will do that, but I will also put Python here and JavaScript. Because are the ones that I'm going to study more in the near future. Python 3.10. So I'll run like this first. So JavaScript. Yeah, here. I think this is correct. JavaScript. So now hopefully it changes there. I think it's gonna work now. Let's see. 1 hour and 20 minutes. I'm not sure if I'm gonna stay here for long because it's too hot and this headphone is annoying to use when it's hot because the other one that I have is there's more space for air and stuff. This one is closes the ear. It's kind of bad, sure. Hopefully it gets colder soon where I live. Yeah, now it's much different, I think, than the previous graph. Yeah, now it's correct. So all the arrows are going outside. This one is going here. Nice. So I think I got it. Nice. Pretty happy about that. And this has the tree structure. It's just not formatted really well because of the model, but yeah, I'm pretty satisfied with that. It's exactly what I imagined. Now I have to think about how I'm gonna make it so I can find connections between different languages. I think that's the main issue. I probably won't be able to do that because of the name of the files. The name, even if the name is the same, is not necessarily gonna give me information of what the thing actually is. So if your CPP has a file called index.html and JavaScript has a file called index.html, my idea would be to connect them both, but in reality, that's not that's not actually what's happening, because it's just a name that is the same, but the function is different. I thought it would, it could have been possible to, because obviously they're not going to be the same, but to see where a function from JavaScript comes from. But I think to do that, I'm probably gonna have to do another approach that involves using maybe compilers or the built-in libraries of languages. So I think that it's gonna be probably the next project I'm gonna do with this. So first build the script visualization for JavaScript, and then, which is the same thing that I did for Python, but this time for JavaScript. As I do that, I'm gonna learn JavaScript, and I'm gonna use this stuff obviously to learn React and Redux. Once I have the script visualization for JavaScript, then I can think about doing the same for C++, and then trying to find a way to connect, to bridge the gap between languages, maybe investigating the compilers and or even the stack trace from both languages to get to the root of them. So I can bridge the connection of the languages and then build a much better graph that shows the relationship between them in this hierarchical format. But I think this is going to be actually pretty useful. It's much better than just looking at documentation, because I have a more a broader view of what's going on. Now I have promise here. So when I'm uncertain about something, I can just go here and see how the connections are happening. Let's see what's here. Hours, array. It's all about the connections. Another thing that I was thinking about is there's a guy I listen on YouTube. He's called Harry Mack. He's a freestyle rapper. And as I was listening to him, I thought about it might be, but then this is obviously a much more difficult project and probably long term that I will do later on. But it would be interesting to try to see if I can scrape information on the internet of these raps, like get a video, get all the sounds from the video, decode the sounds into the language, and then build the same graph but for the languages instead, and then build the graphs for his freestyles and see what that connection looks like, and then create algorithms to explore that, like what's going on, what patterns are happening. And it might be very interesting to even expand the freestyle, or to maybe create a tool that allows people to train this stuff. So let me open another one. First, let me see the other models here, to see if it's better to visualize. So I think the cleanest approach to doing what I want to do is, oh, actually I have to run this for all the files. Can't forget that. Maybe I should put this outside here, so it's easier to visualize as well. And then I can make it like this. It doesn't work. So scratch that. I think the easiest way to go about doing what I want to do is probably create a different class for each thing. Different instance here in this loop. That way every time it's saving, it's not going to erase the previous one because it's creating the class again. But then it's not going to work because I would have to pass this, because I'm passing this net object into the function. So if I don't erase it in the next loop, that's the problem. It's going to carry on the information and it's going to screw up the previous graph. That's why I was trying to separate them into different classes. So I have to think about, yeah, how am I going to connect them? I think one alternative, but then that would be a simple connection. It may be not capture what I wanted to capture, but a simple way that I can see right now, create another flag variable here besides this one, and then encapsulate this into this flag variable. So if the flag variable is true, it's not gonna create a new instance every time, creates only one. Yeah, but then I'll have to think, yeah, I can make the variable true after the first iteration. So I pass in as false by default. Then if I give it, I pass in as true, obviously, which is gonna make it run. And inside of that is gonna make it true. So yeah, but then you wouldn't. I have to do something like I did here, which the first iteration it goes through this block, and then the other ones it just skips the block. So maybe I'll do something with the variable like that. Yeah, I can create a count variable, make it equal to none as default. So it runs normally. And once I pass the variable, I'm passing as a number equal to 0. And then I make it +1 in the next iteration. Or something like that. So that way I would have one version of this loop that erases the network at each loop to create a different graph, and another one that just stacks the graphs together based on how many and what languages I pass here. So if I want to find connections between specific languages, I just pass them here, and then it creates a graph with the connections of all languages. But then I'm not sure if that would capture in the way that I'm thinking about, because it might screw up the nodes and the connections, or not do what I'm intending it to do. Yeah, so I think the best farm to visualize is probably the first one. So I'm gonna run this for all the languages now. So all of them are updated to the latest way that I did there. At least the ones that I have saved. And after that, I'm gonna see if I can pass the flag variable there. Just see if I can create the bigger graph. I would have to change the name as well. So it saves on a different file instead of overwriting all the other files with the same name. I could just make the name equals to all folders combined. Yeah, but then that would be if I'm passing the list, I can loop through the list and or maybe map the list and add the names. So I don't have to change the name of the graph each time. Here. I think I'm gonna grab some water, be right back. The other thing that just hit me, and then I didn't realize, but it's so obvious, is that actually I'm gonna be able to do the visualization for because that was something I was thinking about before. I even did this when I was doing the script visualization stuff. I'm gonna be able to do it to visualize all the libraries in Python because this essentially works for any folder. So pretty much any tree structure from folders I can visualize now. And if I'm able to make the functionality to click and go to the files, then it's exactly what I was thinking about before with the sklearn library. So I can just run this through the folder and then use the script and this visualization stuff to learn the collections. Or maybe it can be possible to connect the two graphs even. That might be a very interesting thing to do actually, right after I finish this. which is to make a website that has two different pages. One page is the script visualization, and the other one is the folder structure. And then connect the traveling from both of them. So when I'm traveling through the script, it shows the three representation of the libraries and the connection between them. So maybe what I can do here is actually just create one simple edge from one folder to the next, from the outer folders, let's say, which are the folders outside of the OS walk folder. So in this case would be, for example, different languages. Let's say I'm running through Bash and Bluebird. I make the tree graph for Bash, and then when it's going to the next loop, I create an edge of the root node of the previous iteration to the next folder. That way I link Bash and Bluebird through one node connection, one edge on both roots. And I do this the same for everyone of them. Then I connect a bunch of them, as many as I want, into one graph. Yeah, the only thing I would be missing is it would be the distance, let's say, because on the script is not necessarily gonna be. But I think there's something here where I can do. Yeah, that's probably a genius idea. As I'm building the script visualization stuff, on each folder of the visualization, maybe not on each folder, maybe I can specify which folders I want. I can create a filter of folders of the main libraries that I'm studying, and then make something that says if this folder shows up in the script visualization stuff, then create the graph tree structure for the script inside of the script visualization stuff. And make the connection between that node as the root node, and yeah, but then that would be a lot more complex. Maybe I don't need to merge the two graphs, otherwise it's going to be too complex as well. I could do something that just filters out the script and it shows up the nodes that got activated from the library in the script. Yeah, that's an awesome idea, I think. And it's much better. I think it's going to be much easier as well. So I create a graph like this, but the only thing that I change is I loop through a CSV with the script execution following the stack frame, and then I make a filter for the times it encounters a file inside the nodes of the folder that I'm building this graph for. And I change the colors once that happens. That way I would be able to visualize on each specific script what files and folders are being activated for each library that I'm trying to study. So I think that's an interesting idea. Yeah, so here it went through. So I'm gonna put this back. And now I'm gonna create a flag here. Now I have to think about it, how I'm gonna make it so this only creates a graph in the first iteration. So obviously I'm gonna put an if statement here. So maybe if count equals 0. Then I do this. And else I pass net equals, I just pass. Or maybe I don't need to do else actually. Just do this. Yeah, but actually I'm gonna have to create 2 instances, one for each case. So I would put before here as well. Count equals none. Count. Come on. So the default is none, which means it's not gonna hit this, I think. Yeah, but now I have to. So I have to think. So when I pass it through, it's gonna go through this one. Let me think about it. And I wanna create only once. Yeah, so I can't make it true or false. It has to be a number. And I have to put here. Count equals 1, maybe. So by default, I make it 0. And then count plus equals 1. And I think that's the easiest solution. Yeah, but then, because if I do it like this, then it is not gonna matter because the second one is gonna hit this. And then it's gonna recreate the network anyways. So I can't do it like this. Maybe here I make if count equal less than 0. Yeah, but then this is, why is this giving me a mistake? I think I can ignore this, just telling me that if it doesn't hit any of this, then it's not, I'm gonna have a problem here. I know that it's gonna hit because maybe it doesn't need to be, yeah. So if count equals 0, I can do elif actually. I think it's probably better. So if count equals 0, it creates the network there. If count equals 1, but that's the problem. Because if I do it like this, I'm gonna have a problem on the second time. So the issue is this one. I only wanna create once, but then if I don't recreate in the other loops, I'm gonna have a problem. So I think I need to make this outside of here, the loop. Yeah, that's probably the easiest one. So I put this to a variable outside, and also have to change the name of the folder. Yeah, so maybe scratch this, and I'm gonna encapsulate all of this into this. Here I'm gonna do this twice because I think it's the easiest way. Yeah. So this is gonna go here, and then I'm gonna have another one. Even though it gets really crowded, I think that's the best way. And then I can make a flag, I think. And maybe this way is better. Then I'm gonna take this here outside of this loop, and I'm gonna make two different variables. And does this work? Maybe the first one, I don't need to do that. Yeah, I just do it for the second one. Ah, yeah, that's the best way. So assign this outside. And then I have to pass it here. So I think I'm gonna do it before everything. Oh, that should be after because I'm gonna put it if I'm gonna put the default value, that should go after everything. It's probably actually I'm just gonna pass it like this. So now I think this is gonna work. I'm passing here as the default count equals 0. If count equals 0, that should be the other way around. It depends which one I want to do as the default. But since I'm going to be passing the mainnet, I think it's better. I'm going to leave it as this, so I remember each time that I'm passing the mainnet here. So it's better for the default. It should be 1 actually. Well, actually not here. I can put 0. And then here I can put 1. But then, yeah, I think this makes sense because this one overrides this one. This is just as the default when it's not declared here. So I think it works. So the default is going to be 1, which means that it's going to go through here. And this one, the name is going to be so because I'm not creating another instance, it's just going to connect all the graphs that I pass in the bytelink, or all the graphs that exist on the folder. And I'm going to change the name. That's why I did a different one. That's why I repeated this stuff. And I think I can erase this update nodes and set language. Or maybe I use the set language to create a name here. Let me see, how did I do that? If language name, self.language name. Maybe I'll do something more simple and then just put all languages. Yeah, but then I would like to have different graphs. That's the problem. So this one I think is correct. So when it's 0, I'm just trying to think if there's a better way to do this because I have these two variables that are dependent on each other. So it would be better if I could make the setup of one change the setup of the other one. So they always match. And I don't get confused after that. When it counts 0, it's gonna reload this every time. And when it's 1, it doesn't reload the network. I think I'm gonna erase this stuff to update the nodes because I don't think it matters. I'm also gonna in here. So now I'm getting a mistake here. Maybe static. No, because I'm not using self. Yeah, I think that's fine. So a static method is a method that is inside of a class but doesn't use the self, which means that it could be declared outside, it's just declared inside for visualization purposes, so that you can see and remember that this is meant to be used within the context of this class. The method itself doesn't necessarily require the class. So when you're calling, you can call it with self.greetTree. And other methods of the class. So I think I can change this set lang name. That would be the best. And when I'm reloading each time, I can erase it from here. Because then the name is going to be just the folder. And I'm not using this in the class, in the graph anyway. Let me see here. Yeah, because I changed this up, I think. Maybe I wasn't even using previously. Yeah. I think the only reason I put there that stuff with the name was because I was giving a different name to this first node, which was the name of the language. But then I decided it would just be more simple and better to just use the there's minus one, because in the first iteration is always going to be this directory here. So this there's minus one is going to be lang docs slash and whatever name the language has. So yeah, I think I can erase from here. This one works now. So by default, it's gonna create. Maybe I can make it here actually. Just so I chain this together. If main at count equals 1, which is this one. Else count equals 0. But then because then I can put here count. I want to attach them together just so I don't get confused each time I want to create this. Because they're both dependent on each other. Maybe I could create a method inside the class there. That would be better. Yeah, that's actually better. Then I can call this method outside. Or maybe I can even pass it as an argument. It, it's obviously just a detail, but yeah. I think I will leave it like this for now. I'll probably change this off string. But my idea is just to put this in a function of the class, method of the class, then set the network and the count based on the value of that I passed to the function, and then make the default the case where I don't activate that. Then I can erase this and just use that instead, the method. And then inside of here, instead of passing that, I can pass the method itself. I'm not sure if I can do that, but yeah. I probably can't do that. Or maybe I would leave it like this, but then I would have to think. I'm sure there's a better way to do it, but just so I stop getting that warning. Oh, let me think. Oh yeah, the name of the folder. That's what I was thinking about. So when I have the mainnet, counts equals 1, which means that it's gonna go through here. And then it's 0, goes through this one, which is reloads the thing every time. The default is 1. I wonder if it's gonna fail here. No. Yeah. So maybe I should put net here. That's gonna be better. Yeah, but this doesn't have a default argument. But it doesn't matter. Yeah, now I'm thinking that it might be because if I don't pass it, then it might screw up this. But maybe hopefully it will just capture from here. It's just weird that it's showing this color, which makes me think that he's looking at it as if it's getting from here, even though it's assigned here. Maybe if I do like this, it doesn't change the color there. So let me think about the folder, then I'll run twice and see if it works. See another thing. Yeah, it doesn't work here. If I do like this. So maybe I can just use another letter. Equals 0. I'm not sure if this is. Uh, it looks redundant, but then I can just change here instead. No, but I'll still have to change here. Anyways. Oh, so I put this inside here, obviously. Yeah, but then yeah, I don't think there's a way. It's probably better just to change manually each time. I'll think about this later. I think better off focusing on one thing at a time. So I'm gonna pass like this. And then change manually here. Yeah, but now it's probably not gonna work because if I don't pass it, this is gonna be a problem. So I could just do equals none here, but then I can pass here. Maybe it works. Because when I don't have the mainnet, I'm not gonna be passing anything because I don't have anything to pass. So I think hopefully this works because then it's gonna be equal to none, and then it's gonna understand that this one is this one here. Yeah, because it's a different thing. I think this works. And then when I pass it, it's just gonna take it from there. From here. And the loop in the bottom. So now let me think about the folder. So I think I can erase the set language names. I was thinking about looping through the by length folder, by length list that I'm gonna pass and make the name equals to something like that, where I'm adding each one of them and putting in the name. But then the problem is when I don't pass it, well, I can just make it independent of a variable. All languages when I don't pass anything. And then when I do pass it, I can loop through it. So if by lang, then I have to do it outside here. And I think I can erase this method as well. Probably erase this, oh, I already did from the other one. So if by lang, I'm gonna make file name equals to, you should put graph name, just so I make sure I'm not gonna screw up with the nodes or edges with the name. So graph name equals map. Then here I'm gonna do by lang lambda x plus equals. Now I have to think. Um, so why is this not working? Maybe it's the other way around. Oh. So this is expected, I think. Unexpected expression syntax. I'm just using map because I don't have the habit of using it, and I think it's better to use it. So, and then here I would obviously put graph name. But that's another problem that I didn't think about it, because I'm saving the graph anyway. Oh, so I have to put it outside of here. So like this. Or maybe even outside of it. Yeah, but then it doesn't work. And so I'm gonna have to change this whole thing, I think. Because when the count is 1, it has to save at the end there of the loop. And when it's not, then it's okay to save it each time, because each one is going to be a different graph. So how was I doing when I saved all of them? Oh, I think it didn't matter. I think I did it outside of the loop. So maybe I'll have to put 2 different loops. And I put the if count outside of the loop. Yeah, that's probably the only way. So I put this here. Then I put this here. And I'll have to put this here. I think this is okay now. Oh, I forgot this. Yeah, folder. And yeah, now it's probably correct. And this would be, I still have a problem with the name though. Because the saving has to happen after the loop is done. I guess I can make the same condition, but outside here. Yeah, it's probably the easiest way to do this. So if bylang, if not bylang, I can erase from here. Yeah, that way, and then, oh, but then, yeah, it's probably better because I would do the map just once, and not each iteration to define the name. I think that now it's okay because first it's gonna run the loop, then create a graph. And this is already the situation where I want to stack them together. The only distinction here is when I pass specific languages or when I don't pass anything. So when I don't pass, it's gonna have the graph with all the languages in the folder. When I pass the list, it's gonna be the graph with all the languages in the list. And that's the distinction that is happening here. And if the count is 0, then it's gonna renew the network each time. And it's gonna be a distinct graph, regardless of whether I pass it or not. And I think this part is correct. Just trying to see if I made any mistake here. Which most likely probably did. Now I just have to figure out the syntax. How to combine all strings in a list into one string, separated by underline. Right now. The items in your list are already strings. Your list of strings. Dot join. Yeah, dot join is probably simple. More simple. So it would be dot join by length. So the name is gonna be all of them connected by an underline. So the default is count equals 1. Just goes here. I think it's correct now, so I think I'm gonna do this. So I should get a graph with all these languages connected here. It's gonna be a huge name, but if I run this. So first I'm gonna run with count 1 in mainnet, then I'm gonna try to run the other way. Yeah. Hopefully it works. I think, yeah, if it works, I'm probably gonna copy this into the visualization docs. And then I was focused on building the new features in Jinja instead of connecting, of trying to make different connections. Because I think it's better if I want to make sure that I'm able to make there must be a way to create new features, otherwise the people wouldn't be able to create a library. So I think it's just a matter of time. But I want to make sure that I'm able to do that first. So then I can work on it with the end in mind, because then I'll know that what kind of things I'm able to change in the futures of the nodes. So in the future graphs that I'm creating and the future things that I'm setting, I will be able to design them better because I already have in the back of my mind what kind of stuff I want to do with the nodes and what is possible. So apparently it worked, at least it saved properly. Now let's see what happens. The only thing that I think about that I can do right now before doing the Jinja is figuring out a way to make the connections. If this doesn't work, to make the connection between one side to the other one. Not one side, one language and the other one. But that might be, it's probably a lot harder to do because I'll probably have to change the whole way I'm doing the connections. But it might be possible to do that outside of the loop there. Now that I think about it. To do, I think it worked. It's just gonna take time to load because it's probably a very big graph. So what I was talking about is, and the name here, I think it worked as well. Nice. So to connect one language with the other folder with the other, I can probably add the nodes outside of here by using the, yeah, but then I would need to capture the root node from each one here. yeah, whenever I'm creating the graphs should somehow pass the root node of the previous one outside of this loop into the next iteration, and to create the unique link between the root node of one language and the root node of the next one. I think this might be possible here. I just don't know for sure if it's possible to do this outside of here somehow. Oh, maybe I can loop through the whole nodes, all of the nodes, using the self dot, not the self, the net dot nodes. Because when you create the network, it stores the nodes and the edges in the list of the network. So maybe I can loop through that and get the index one. Or I don't even need to loop, I can just get the access the first node. But then the question would be, how would I connect that with the nodes of the next language? So it would be here. Well, actually, because it's all, if I do it with the count one, which is, it makes the way that makes more sense, I think it might be easy actually. Because each one of the nodes is gonna be in the same list of the nodes of this mainnet here. I would just have to see if it's possible to figure out the index of the last node of each one. So maybe it should do something that captures the specific nodes that I want to make the connection. Yeah, I think the way that it makes sense is probably should do it outside here. After I do this, because this is gonna run through the loops. Yeah, that's probably the way, actually. Yeah, but then it would be even more stuff to crowd the code, because the way that I'm imagining, I'll probably have to do another flag variable for the first iteration because I'm not gonna have any nodes. But maybe that's unnecessary because it is if it's just gonna give me an empty list. But then that might be a problem because if I want to create the edge, it's not gonna work. So I'll probably have to create a flag variable for the first iteration so that I only get the node after the second iteration. And I do it outside of the loop. And because I'm always getting the same node in the first, which is this one, the deers -1 of each language, maybe there's a way to always access the same name outside of the loop. I can just pass it in as a string format. Then after it finishes the loop, it gets that node of the root node of the language, and then it creates this. Yeah, but then how would I do the edge? Maybe I can do it inside of the. I can do it inside of the loop somehow. Yeah, I can do it inside of the loop actually. can create even outside of this block here. Actually, it might be a lot easier than I'm thinking about. I create another flag variable here, and then I do it outside of here. And then I catch by name. I do, but then that might screw up all the graphs. That's the problem. Because if I do a node, there is -1 node, and that connects to itself. Let's say, actually, then I would do it a different way. I probably, yeah, it's probably if I do it with the folder path instead. Because I don't want something that is gonna change each iteration of this loop. I want something that's gonna be consistent. So yeah, the first, I can do it outside of here. And inside the create tree function, but outside of this loop. I can do it even before here. Then I use this folder path somehow to create a node. Because the name is gonna be the same. I just have to figure out how to format the way that I want. So it's always the same as this node here. And then the first iteration, I skip with the flag variable. And in the second iteration, I create an edge between the previous node that was created. So I create the first node in the first iteration. Or maybe I don't even need to do that, actually. You can just use the index 0. Yeah, I do it after the loop. So I don't need to, but I still need to create the flag variable, so maybe it's better to do it outside. Because the edge, I only want to create the edge after the first iteration when it has the first loop, the first root node of the directory. So I think I'm gonna do that after this opens up. I create a flag variable, then I make a condition that says if it's the first, you skip, and if it's not the first, if it's the second iteration or further, then you create a node. Well, if it's the first iteration, you create a node, the first root node of the first language. If it's the second iteration, you create the root node of the next language and the edge between that root node and the root node of the previous language. Then I can make another argument to pass and encapsulate that. In case I don't want to make the connection, I can just pass the argument as false. Then it skips the whole check. Why is keeps me showing this? It's annoying. I know it's working because it's loading. Sometimes it does this with other graphs that it did as well. When the graphs are too big. But now it's just showing me way too often. Yeah, it's 35%. The issue is that if I don't stay on this screen, it stops loading. So we have to leave this open. And I don't want to pass this to the other monitor because it's a different resolution. So I think what I'm gonna do actually then is just stop the stream here and wait for this to load, maybe come back later or another day. I'm thinking whether or not to do this stuff now with the flag variable. The thing is, I would want to see the final graph if all the languages connected first, just see how it looks like. Of course, I have a different idea. I'm just gonna erase languages there, so the graph is smaller and loads faster. I'm gonna close these graphs for now. So I'm gonna copy this, put here. I think these ones are the biggest. So change JavaScript. Yeah. Rust is probably big as well. TensorFlow and Python. I think I'm gonna just leave these ones here. So it should be CSS, Ginger. Maybe I should put the... Yeah, I'm gonna make a different directory here. Called main net. Just so it's more organized and I have to... That way the graphs are separated. So I'm gonna delete this from here. You can just redo it later or... Let's see if this is working now. There we go. So it works. From what I understand, Ginger creates a template of HTML every time. And then NetworkX passes the arguments that are part of the template with the nodes and everything. And that's how it creates this stuff. I'm just not sure exactly what is going on. What is going on when it creates the template, how the objects are being passed through the thing. And so this is interesting. Let's see if this one's better. Yeah, so I guess each language is a red dot here. But I don't think they are connected. Or maybe they are actually. This one seems to be connected to this one. And sometimes it's hard with these graphs because there can be... It's all about how you make the connection. So if it works, it can be hard to know if you're getting exactly what you intended to get. That's the danger with this stuff. Because maybe you created a graph and it works, but the way that you're doing the connections is not necessarily what you're thinking. So the conclusions you make are not the best because you have wrong assumptions. SQLite. So if they are connected, it probably means that they have the same nodes. So this is not. I don't think they are connected. It's a npm v8 v8 it goes through here. Commands. So it's not connected there. Yeah, so I think they're all separated. Yeah, so to connect them, I would need to do what I was talking about before. Now I'm also thinking about it might be a good idea to make it not only the connection between the languages, but some way that I can uh, explain the order that I wanted them to be connected. So because I know certain languages come from other languages, so it would be a lot better to instead of connecting each one by one linearly, connect them through some logic. I think it's better to do instead of doing the way that I was talking about. I just realized now it's probably better to just capture it as I create the root nodes for each one. Put it inside of a variable or something like that. Because it doesn't matter if I do the connection outside of the loop uh, when I'm saving the graph. So I think I need to capture each one on that loop and create the node here, if that's possible. So how can I do this? Because if I do what I was talking about before and I create a flag variable there, then it doesn't really matter because those nodes are not going to be connected to any other nodes. I have to get the root node of each one. Because the root node is the one that is connected through all of the other ones. So I think I have to do it through here. That should be inside of this V0. But the question is, how would I pass this information from here to outside of the loop? So I can create the connection between. See how much time I spent here. also think actually, I think I'm gonna do this off stream. Yeah, it's probably better. And then what I'm gonna do here now is do this stuff. I think I'm really happy with this one, so I'm gonna save it here in this main file and then forget about all this other stuff that I was doing. Because this is exactly what I wanted when I began this. I will leave the scrapey stuff for later, and I'll focus now on figuring out figuring out the ginger stuff. I think I'm not using this update nodes as well, so I can probably erase them from here. Yeah, I'm not even using this init. Find path still using. Yeah, much better. Find def actually. Yeah, maybe I could use this function. This function returns the how many levels a folder has, folder tree has. So maybe I could use this function to somehow get the length of each one. So I know the index to make the connection there. I'll do that. I'll think about that later, I think. So I think I'm pretty happy with this, the way that it is now. So I'm gonna save these files into other files. Uh, oh, the only thing that I forgot is this path here. This file name. Yeah, but I don't think I'm gonna. You can just change manually. I was gonna say I'm gonna make a main function and put if name equals main, and then put this as a variable so I can change there. But yeah, I'm not gonna do that. So what I'm gonna do now is run this graphs for the libraries that I want to study, which is gonna be Ginger Chew, which I already have there. I'm gonna make a different folder as well. So I'm gonna make Ginger Chew, Network X, 5is, and some other. So let me save these files here. Make sure I save them into another. Make sure I'm copying them into my external hard drive so I don't lose them. Then I'm also gonna create another folder here, another project name. It's gonna be lib visualizer. And then I'm gonna open that. First, I'm gonna copy the files that I'm using here. Just the graph structure. Oops. just passing the things I'm gonna use in the other project to the other folder. I think I have, it's pretty much one script only, and then I can just change the path for the file name to get the specific libraries that I want. Yeah, then I'll have to see if that's gonna screw up things, because when I'm splitting the name, it might give me problems actually. So I might have to do it where I put a folder each time. I create a folder in the project. Uh, so that I don't have to redo the whole thing. Because if I get folders outside of the project itself, it might give me a different tier name when I'm doing that thing. When I'm running the script. So I guess I'll run it first with the external libraries instead. Just because it's easier. Then I'll see. If I have any problems, I'm just gonna create another folder here called study or something like that. Dear study. And then it's gonna be pretty much the same. I could just copy all the folders I want to study to that one and use this OS path current directory with the name of the folder, the main folder. So here is gonna take a long time. I think I'm gonna do that already. I'm gonna comment this out. Then I'm gonna try to get the absolute path. Set packages. Maybe the path from content root. And I need to remember which library is exactly. I know Ginger 2 and then 5is, but there might be other ones that I'm forgetting. So I'm just gonna. The thing is, if I do it like this, I'm probably gonna get a wrong graph because of it's gonna be a completely different folder. But it might be the case that there's just extra steps, extra connections here. So let's see. And I'm doing the run net thing. Yeah, the system cannot find the path, so maybe if I do it like this. I'm already gonna create the study folder here, just in case. And I'm gonna copy the ginger into there. I wonder if I might have problems with dependencies and stuff like that. With conflicting names, if I do it like this. Also, though, you know, in this computer, in the main computer, I'm also not using virtual environments, which is really bad. Which I probably should be doing later. I am doing the virtual machine now, but I didn't do this from the beginning here, so cannot find path. I'm gonna try all of them. I like this. Also, this works. Let's see. Here. Yeah, I guess if I only pass one language, also. Oh, I'm doing it. How is this working, actually? Well, I guess it's gonna give me an empty graph probably. Yeah, because it didn't put a condition there, but it's fine. So I'm passing here, but then it's obviously hitting the statement there and not finding the folders here. So if I just erase this, it's probably gonna work. So if I only pass one language, also is the same of not having mainnet. Now it should be. Yeah, so that's why I should probably not do it like this. Delete this. So it should probably pass here. Yeah, but then. Yeah, I'm looping through the directory, so. Yeah, it should be Jinja true. Jinja. Like it is here. Because I think it's the same name here. Actually, I think it's just easier to copy each folder that I want to study there. It's a lot more cleaner and easier to understand. And I don't have to find it here in the set packages each time. And then I can just use the current directory stuff. I'm gonna do it like this just once, so I see if it works, but probably gonna change after that. Yeah, so it is Jinjacho. Jinjacho. That doesn't work. It's probably because of the folder thing. Yeah, so it's just easier to do the current directory stuff. Obviously, I can figure it out, but probably just a waste of time. So I do the study here. This one, Ginger Chew. Just the name here. And now it should work just like the other one. Hopefully. Hmm. If I delete, doesn't work, I'm just gonna debug. Run the debugger and see what's going on. So what's happening here? Also gonna delete this. Yeah. So what's going on here? This is weird. So count equals 1. Goes here. Net equals main net. So seeding this. That should be the directory. It's the only thing that makes sense. The easiest way just to do this. See what's going on. So it is study the path and creates the main net. What is the folder name? Study. Folder path. Study ginger chew. So why is giving me files 0 sublayers there? That's super weird. I'm also using the HTML stuff, which I shouldn't be doing. That's probably the reason why. Because now I have Python files, not HTML files. This might be the reason, actually. But it doesn't make sense to me for this to be empty, because even if this is empty, when it sums just the subdirectory, oh, it's probably because the subdirectory this doesn't have any subfolders. That's the reason. Yeah, so that's what's going on here. That's probably the issue. You can't be the path because I did it the same way that I did it before. So yeah, it should be the files. But maybe I should get all the files in the folder now. Yeah, I shouldn't even have this filter here. I think I'm gonna do it without filter because I want to capture everything that exists inside the library. But now here's the problem because yeah, I can just skip through this, but I'll have to take this off here. So I have to find another way to. I think I'll do that off stream because I've been here for a long time. So I will do it with the .py now, but off stream I will figure out a way to check when it's a folder. So I can do the filter folders instead of the files extension. And then I change the rest. So hopefully now it works. And I can also erase this if folder.find JSON, but we'll do it later. There we go. Nice. So I will study this one. Now I have to think. Yeah, I think network X and PyVis. Network X. It's probably the only ones that I'm gonna do. Network X. And then PyVis. The ones that I do for now, obviously, I'll do a lot more in the future. After I'm able to implement this stuff on Jinja. So yeah, now I think I can erase this and just do all of them. And then I should be getting the all folder. And they're gonna be separated because I didn't make the connection, so between different languages. Yeah, nice. Maybe I was wrong. Huh. So they seem to be connected through this. It makes sense actually because, yeah, because PyVis is a wrapper for network X. So it makes sense that they are connected through some file. Ah. And now I know the connection. so I can explore this library through this file. So I thought the connection was in templates, and maybe it is through the execution of the script, but directly might be through this file here. So that might be what I was missing there. But this looks like a test, something to test. Yes, I think and the other one is disconnected from them, which is the Jinja. And it's super interesting to see actually. Yes, I think I'm done for now. I'll either play around with this, with the connections between different ones next time, or I will use this stuff to explore these libraries and try to add the future here, the features that I want. So yeah, I'm done for now. See you next time. Peace.